Opening the tomb of a Chinese princess, archaeologists were shocked to discover this secret inside. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Ancient History, a place where every inch of land and every stone can tell a story that has been sleeping for thousands of years. You know, there's a saying often shared among archaeologists: history is never truly dead, it is only waiting to be awakened by humanity. And the deeper we dig, the more we realize that the past is far from silent, unlike what we once believed. Just think about it. Beneath the seemingly ordinary ground we walk on every day, what might be hidden below? It could be an unrecorded tomb, an ancient city erased from the pages of history, or even traces of civilizations that textbooks have yet to mention. Broken pottery shards, decayed pieces of fabric, or lifeless blocks of stone. Sometimes these very fragments become the keys that completely overturn humanity's understanding of its own origins. That's why in today's video, we invite you to join us on a journey filled with curiosity and surprise. From the mysterious tomb of an ancient Chinese princess to secrets that continue to spark debate in legendary Egypt. From cities buried deep beneath the earth to fossils of creatures frozen for tens of thousands of years, as if time itself had never touched them. Each discovery not only tells the story of the past, but also raises questions that make us reflect on the present and even the future that lies ahead. So, are you ready? If you are, then sit tight, open your eyes wide, and hold on to your curiosity as we dive together into our very first discovery, starting right now. Dilapidated 43 square feet tomb that hid imperial-level treasures, the true identity of its owner, left archaeologists frozen in shock. When it comes to ancient tombs excavated in China, people usually think of massive burial complexes, deep and winding corridors, and thousands of luxurious grave goods buried alongside emperors and nobles. Just look at the mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang in Shanxi province, and it becomes clear that the scale of a tomb often reflects the status and power of its owner. Yet, on that very same land in Shanxi, there existed a tomb so small it was almost unbelievable. Covering an area of only about 43 square feet, it was shabby and plain. And yet hidden inside were artifacts that left the entire archaeological community stunned. The story began in the 1990s, when local residents accidentally uncovered an ancient tomb during a construction project. In Shanxi, discoveries like this are not uncommon, so as soon as the report came in, archaeologists rushed to the site to investigate. At first, all the signs suggested that this might be a large-scale tomb. The excavation team even brought in heavy machinery, fully prepared for a major dig. However, as layers of soil were gradually removed, their initial excitement quickly turned into disappointment. Before them was nothing more than a tiny tomb, roughly 43 square feet in size, with a crude structure, exactly the kind of burial typically associated with ordinary civilians. With years of experience, the experts knew all too well that tombs like this almost never contain valuable grave goods. Some even suggested halting the excavation to save time and effort. Still, a few members of the team refused to give up. They believed that even a small tomb might hold something worth studying, and that decision, to open the coffin, changed everything. When the coffin was finally opened, the scene inside left the experts speechless. Instead of emptiness, they found a large number of artifacts piled on top of one another. In total, more than 100 burial items were documented, including objects made of gold, jade, and even iron. Materials completely inconsistent with an ordinary person's grave. Among them, 2 items were considered truly priceless. The first was a sword with an iron blade and a hilt crafted from gold, a combination reserved exclusively for the highest ranks of nobility. The second was an exquisitely made crystal ornament, rare and almost never seen in common tombs. Based on the materials and craftsmanship alone, the experts were certain these could not have belonged to an ordinary individual. Radiocarbon dating and historical analysis were immediately conducted. The results showed that these 2 treasures dated back at least to the Western Han Dynasty and possibly even earlier. This raised a major question. What kind of prince, noble, or general would choose to be buried in such a small, dilapidated tomb? Strangely enough, there were no inscriptions, records, or markers inside the tomb to indicate the identity of its owner. Research soon reached a dead end and remained stalled for quite some time. Unwilling to give up, the experts shifted their focus to a detailed study of the patterns, styles, and manufacturing techniques of each artifact, comparing them with historical records. Eventually, their final conclusion shocked many. The owner of the tomb was neither a prince nor a general, but an ordinary man who lived during the Western Han Dynasty. However, this ordinary man had a very unusual identity. He was a tomb robber. According to researchers, this individual had somehow managed to break into the tomb of Qin Jinggong and steal numerous priceless treasures. But because these artifacts were so distinctive and easily recognizable, he dared not sell them. In the end, they were buried alongside him in his own small, humble grave. No one could have imagined that more than 2,000 years later, it would be these stolen treasures that led archaeologists to uncover the tomb of a grave robber, revealing an ironic and almost unbelievable story from history. Pretty fascinating, isn't it? "1,000-year-old Chinese princess's tomb" that forced an entire archaeological team to evacuate. In June 1985, while quarrying stone on a mountain in Tongliao City, Eastern Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, China, workers unexpectedly uncovered a stone wall. At first, they assumed it was merely a large underground rock and paid little attention to it. However, as they continued digging deeper, they noticed that the stone slabs were arranged with striking precision and bore clear carved markings. Realizing they had likely encountered a burial site, the workers immediately notified the Inner Mongolia Institute of Archaeology. After an archaeological team was dispatched to investigate, the institute confirmed that the workers had uncovered the entrance to an ancient tomb more than 1,000 years old, dating back to the Liao dynasty. This tomb was far from simple. It featured a complete stone mausoleum system with corridors, burial chambers, and side chambers on both the left and right. The entire structure measured approximately 54 feet. Based on this elaborate design, archaeologists concluded that it had to be a royal tomb. The excavation team was astonished to discover a stone staircase carved directly into the steep cliff face of Tuerjishan Mountain, leading down to a spacious burial chamber. Inside, they found a large quantity of burial goods, including gold and silver objects, lacquerware, pearls, agate, crystal, amber, and fine silk. Alongside the coffins were more than 200 artifacts, all valuable burial items such as crystal cups, silver-plated saddles, gold finger guards, gold bells, and daggers with crystal handles. Remarkably, these objects were exceptionally well preserved. The most striking artifact in the tomb was a blood-red cypress wood coffin, exquisitely carved with phoenix motifs and preserved in excellent condition. The wooden base supporting the coffin had also been painted in vivid colors. However, due to long-term burial in damp, silty soil, much of the paint on the coffin base had faded away. The archaeological team had to work together to lift the extremely heavy lid of the pine wood coffin. As the lid was slowly opened, two bodies wearing strange gold masks gradually came into view. The remains were relatively well preserved and wrapped in multiple layers of silk garments. Out of respect for the deceased, the experts did not immediately remove the gold masks. Instead, they decided to use the most advanced technology available at the time to scan the remains in order to gather more information about the tomb's occupants. However, just as the team was preparing to transfer the bodies to a research facility, a mysterious white liquid suddenly began leaking from a gap inside the coffin, flowing out in increasing amounts. Upon seeing this, the experts urgently shouted warnings and evacuated everyone from the burial chamber. Their quick escape was crucial, as the experts knew that the Khitan people had a custom of pouring mercury over the bodies of the deceased to preserve them. Mercury is extremely toxic. The large quantity of mercury sealed inside the coffin explained why the 2,000-year-old bodies had not decomposed. However, inhaling high concentrations of mercury vapor can cause severe poisoning, convulsions, or even sudden death. As a result, the team was forced to immediately evacuate the area. Eventually, the remains were transferred to a museum for decontamination and DNA testing. The DNA results shocked scholars even further. In addition to the precious carved wooden coffins and lavish burial goods, archaeologists also discovered a royal-style epitaph tablet, a hallmark of imperial burials. By analyzing the inscription alongside records from the history of the Liao dynasty, the official chronicle of the Liao dynasty, which ruled from 907 to 1125, experts confirmed that this was the tomb of Princess Chenguo of the Liao dynasty, a member of the Khitan royal family and the younger sister of Emperor Liao Taizu. The princess died at just 18 years old and was buried together with her husband, who was also her uncle, reflecting the practice of close kin marriage within the royal family at the time. Historical records do not specify the exact cause of their deaths, only noting that they died from illness. Chinese historical texts describe Princess Chenguo as a woman of great virtue, beloved by both the emperor and the people. Because of this, she was granted a grand and elaborate tomb. During burial, both the princess and her husband were fitted with gold facial masks, intricately carved to reflect their facial features. Wearing masks for the deceased was a unique Khitan custom. These gold masks were intended to preserve the dignified appearance of the dead, even after facial features had decomposed. The gold masks and burial goods found in Princess Chenguo's tomb are the first fully intact artifacts ever recovered from the Liao dynasty. These discoveries became priceless historical treasures, helping to fill major gaps in knowledge about a once powerful dynasty that had long been overlooked. According to experts, a total of 3,227 valuable burial items were excavated from Princess Chenguo's tomb. Among them was a crystal cup fitted with a gold chain. At first, archaeologists were both confused and excited, as they could not believe that what appeared to be a modern-style glass cup had been found in a 1,000-year-old tomb. Some even speculated that it might have been left behind by tomb robbers. However, a thorough investigation revealed no signs of looting. Further analysis showed that the cup was actually made of crystal, not modern glass. The crystal cup found in the Liao dynasty tomb is considered a counterpart to a crystal cup from the Warring States period, excavated in 1990. The cup was exquisitely crafted, with two small holes along its side, designed to attach a gold chain. What astonished experts even more was that the artifact remained almost perfectly intact after nearly 1,000 years underground. Crafting objects from crystal is far from simple. Yet this cup was produced with dimensions and proportions remarkably similar to modern cups and glasses. This clearly demonstrates that crystal-working technology during the Liao dynasty had reached a highly advanced level, reflecting the intelligence and creativity of people at the time. Although experts have not yet determined exactly how ancient craftsmen produced this crystal cup, its discovery, along with the other precious artifacts in Princess Chenguo's tomb, holds enormous archaeological value and plays a crucial role in the study of Liao dynasty history. The Liao dynasty crystal cup with a gold chain was designated a national treasure immediately after its excavation. Today, it is preserved and displayed at the Inner Mongolia Museum, China. After seeing this remarkable artifact in person, many visitors can't help but feel that time travel might actually be real. So if you ever have the chance, it's definitely worth visiting to see it for yourself. The Pharaoh's Tomb. Without a mummy that shook. Abydos, when a king was suspected of being a tomb robber in ancient Egyptian history. Amid the arid desert of the ancient city of Abydos, once regarded as sacred ground where Egypt's earliest pharaohs were laid to rest, archaeologists unearthed a mystery that left scholars stunned. Not because of the familiar splendor of a royal tomb, but because of the haunting emptiness found inside it. A pharaoh who lived more than 3,600 years ago, named Seneb Kay, emerged from the shadows of history in a way no one had anticipated. As you may know, Abydos had served as a royal necropolis since the early dynastic period. At el-Ka'ab, just north of the city, archaeologists previously discovered the burial site of Pharaoh Narmer, often described as the Qin Shi Huang of ancient Egypt, the ruler who unified Upper and Lower Egypt. In addition, the walls of the mortuary temple of Pharaoh Seti, the first bear, a hieroglyphic list of the kings of Abydos, an invaluable historical record for studying Egypt's earliest dynasties and the 19th dynasty. Yet Seneb Kay's name was entirely absent from these well-known records until his tomb was excavated. Dr. Joseph Wegner, along with an archaeological team from Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities and the University of Pennsylvania, identified this mysterious pharaoh through a small but crucial detail: an oval-shaped inscription bearing the name Seneb Kay, found on both the coffin and the tomb walls. The tomb consisted of 4 burial chambers and a limestone coffin, decorated with paintings of ancient Egyptian deities such as Nut, the sky goddess, Nephthys, and Selket, the scorpion goddess who protected the dead. On either side of the once gold-plated coffin were carvings of the goddess Isis, accompanied by inscriptions proclaiming Seneb Kay's supreme authority as the son of Horus, king of Upper and Lower Egypt. But this grandeur vanished abruptly. When the tomb was opened, all that remained was devastation. The burial treasures had disappeared without a trace. The gold leaf covering the walls and coffin had been scraped away. Even the pharaoh's mummy had been violently torn apart by tomb robbers. Seneb Kay's remains were reduced to fragmented bones, forcing scientists to reconstruct his body using modern technology. Through this analysis, researchers determined that he stood about 5 feet 9 inches tall and died at nearly 50 years of age. Not a young age by ancient standards. Although the tomb itself was not large, it revealed another controversial detail. Archaeologists discovered clay jars that once held internal organs, now heavily decomposed, suggesting that the mummification process may have been poorly executed or possibly never fully completed. This made Seneb Kay an exceptionally rare case among Egyptian pharaohs. The mystery deepened further. In the summer of 2013, Professor Wegner's team continued excavations south of Abydos and uncovered a massive red quartzite sarcophagus weighing approximately 66 US tons. After nearly 6 months of study, a shocking truth emerged. The sarcophagus did not belong to Seneb Kay. It dated to a much earlier period and had originally been made for Pharaoh Seneb the fourth of the 13th dynasty, around 1780 BCE. Notably, Seneb IV's own tomb was located nearby. This raised an unsettling question. Could it be that Pharaoh Seneb Kay, ruling during a time of political decline and limited resources, had chosen to reuse the sarcophagus of a predecessor? In other words, could a pharaoh himself have become a tomb robber in the course of history? The answer remains uncertain. However, as excavations entered their final phase, numerous additional tombs gradually came to light, revealing the existence of an entire Abydos dynasty, a forgotten royal line that had vanished from history for more than 3,600 years. As Joseph Wegner noted, the greatest value of this discovery lies not merely in identifying an unknown pharaoh, but in restoring an entire lost dynasty to the historical record. And once again, ancient Egypt reminds us that the past still holds countless secrets, waiting patiently to be uncovered. The tomb of the only historically verified female general in Chinese history. Discoveries inside that left archaeologists speechless. In Chinese history, whenever people mention the image of a woman wearing armor and going into battle, names like Hua Mulan or Mu Guiying usually come to mind. Ironically, however, both of these well-known figures belong more to legend than to documented historical fact. In real history, female generals were extremely rare. So rare that many people believe they never truly existed. But did you know that there actually was a real female general who commanded armies, led troops into battle, held supreme military authority, and was clearly recorded in historical texts? Her name was Fu Hao. Fu Hao was one of the wives of King Wu Ding of the Shang dynasty, one of the most powerful rulers in ancient China. Among his many consorts, Fu Hao was the most favored, not only because of her beauty, but also because of her exceptional talent and rare strength of character. At first, Wu Ding married Fu Hao purely for her appearance, completely unaware that this woman possessed military abilities far beyond imagination. Everything changed when the kingdom faced a grave crisis. The Chang tribe launched a sudden invasion, posing a serious threat to the security of the Shang dynasty. In this desperate situation, Fu Hao requested permission to lead the army into battle. What shocked the entire royal court was that she not only repelled the enemy forces, but achieved a decisive and resounding victory. From that moment on, Wu Ding placed his complete trust in Fu Hao, granting her command over the entire military and even supreme authority on the battlefield. A woman holding the military fate of an entire nation in her hands was something almost unheard of in ancient Chinese history. Tragically, Fu Hao's life was heartbreakingly short. Some records suggest that she died before the age of 30, possibly as a result of jealousy and intrigue from other consorts within the treacherous environment of the royal harem. Her death plunged Wu Ding into deep grief for a long time. To honor and remember his wife, who was both his beloved consort and his great general, Wu Ding ordered the construction of a fortified tomb and held an exceptionally grand funeral. Over thousands of years, Fu Hao's tomb gradually faded into obscurity until it was eventually rediscovered by archaeologists. And the moment the tomb was opened left everyone in stunned silence. Inside were not only countless precious treasures, but also a deeply disturbing detail: the skeletal remains of 10 people buried alongside the female general. Experts determined that these were live burials, individuals who were buried alive at the time of the tomb owner's death. Even more horrifying, 4 of them were children. Inscriptions and ancient writings found within the tomb suggest that Fu Hao may have died during a period of political turmoil when internal rebellion and power struggles were taking place within the Shang court. However, the reason why 10 people were buried alive with her remains unexplained to this day. Was this a ritual sacrifice of the era, or a symbolic act meant to reflect the female general's immense power and status? While the true explanation remains a mystery, one fact is undeniable. Fu Hao was the first and one of the very few real female generals in Chinese history. She personally led troops into battle many times, commanded soldiers against hostile forces, and returned victorious every single time. Her tomb is not merely a burial site, but a powerful testament to a chapter in history when women did not stand behind the front lines. They stood at the very forefront of war. What do you think about that? Do you know any other details about the story of this powerful woman from ancient China? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below so everyone can join the discussion. The world's oldest wine cellar, a 4,000-year-old discovery. More than 4,000 years ago, when metal was as precious as gold and literacy was still a privilege reserved for the elite, humans had already mastered the art of winemaking in a systematic, refined way, with clear formulas and techniques. That may sound hard to believe, doesn't it? Yet a groundbreaking discovery made in 2013 in Israel forced archaeologists to completely rethink the history of wine. That year, during an excavation at an ancient Canaanite palace, scientists uncovered a sealed room located on the western side of the central courtyard. Inside this room, they found 40 large clay jars, neatly arranged as if part of a deliberately organized storage system. These were not water jars nor decorative objects. Instead, they concealed a secret that had lain dormant for millennia. When residue samples from inside the jars were analyzed using mass spectrometry, the results left the entire research team stunned. Every single jar contained chemical compounds characteristic of wine. This meant that the find was not just a few random leftover containers, but an entire ancient wine cellar, now considered the oldest ever discovered in the world. But the story doesn't end there. What makes this discovery truly remarkable are the subtle differences found among the jars, which were nearly identical in shape and appearance. Within the wine residues, scientists detected traces of honey, tree resin, cedar oil, juniper, and possibly even mint, myrtle, and cinnamon. These additives were anything but accidental. They indicate that the Canaanites were not merely drinking wine for pleasure, but deliberately blending ingredients to enhance flavor and improve preservation. According to researchers, adding tree resin and cedar oil likely helped extend the wine's shelf life, while herbs and spices contributed aroma and taste. In other words, people in the Bronze Age already possessed complex winemaking recipes, comparable to those used by modern artisanal winemakers today. Hearing this, many people might wonder, could the art of winemaking have emerged far earlier than we ever imagined? The answer is yes. According to Science Daily, between roughly 1900 and 1600 BCE, wine played a vital role in the lives of people across the Mediterranean and Near East. It was not only consumed at feasts, but also used in religious rituals, diplomacy, and major ceremonial occasions. Ironically, however, archaeological evidence of wine from this period is extremely rare. That is precisely why the discovery of the Canaanite wine cellar is considered such a valuable missing piece, one that helps fill a historical gap spanning centuries. More importantly, this find reveals that the Canaanites possessed deep knowledge of plants, agriculture, and natural chemistry. They understood which plants created aroma, which helped preserve wine, and how to combine them to produce a drink that was both flavorful and long-lasting. This also reflects a sophisticated economy in which grape cultivation, wine production, and distribution had become an essential part of society. An ancient wine cellar, 40 clay jars, silent for 4,000 years, and a discovery that forces us to see the past through a different lens. Perhaps our ancestors were never as primitive as we once believed. A 10-million-year-old fossil with horns that sent a chill through the Tatacoa Desert. In the arid Tatacoa Desert of Colombia, A place that was once a lush network of rivers and lakes millions of years ago, scientists have uncovered a creature that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears about it. It is not a dinosaur, nor a giant crocodile, but a turtle. And before you picture the gentle turtles we're familiar with today, think again, because what was unearthed here is truly an armored aquatic monster. Tatacoa has long been known as a graveyard of prehistoric water beasts. And once again, that reputation has been confirmed with the discovery of the largest turtle fossil ever known to science. Researchers identified the specimen as Stupendemys geographicus, a giant prehistoric turtle that once dominated the rivers of South America. This newly discovered individual is not only larger than previously known examples, but is considered the largest turtle in the entire evolutionary history of turtles. According to research findings, Stupendemys geographicus could grow up to about 13 feet long and weigh approximately around 2,750 pounds. In other words, placed next to a compact car, this turtle would have been both larger and heavier. The fossil uncovered this time is remarkably well preserved, exceptionally complete and clearly defined, making the scientific community especially excited. Compared with specimens previously found in Brazil, Venezuela, and other parts of Colombia, this individual surpasses them all in both size and condition. But size alone isn't what left researchers in awe. On the massive shell, scientists discovered two sharp horn-like protrusions extending from either side of the shell near the neck. Paleontologist Edwin Cadena from Universidad del Rosario explained that this feature is the most valuable aspect of the discovery. These horns were not merely decorative. Deep scars were also found across the surface of the shell, as if it had endured violent impacts. This reveals a surprising truth. Prehistoric turtles were not slow or gentle creatures. On the contrary, they were extremely aggressive. With shells as tough as armored vehicles and sharp horns for weapons, male turtles likely engaged in fierce battles to compete for mates. If witnessed firsthand, such clashes would have rivaled the dramatic confrontations of large predatory mammals. Previous studies suggest that the earliest ancestors of Stupendemys geographicus may have appeared as far back as 70 million years ago, when dinosaurs still ruled the Earth. Even more astonishing is the fact that when the asteroid catastrophe struck 66 million years ago, wiping out most dinosaurs, these giant turtles continued to survive. Their enormous size and nearly impenetrable natural armor allowed them to endure in a world filled with terrifying predators. The discovery in the Tatacoa Desert not only adds an invaluable specimen to science, but also forces us to reconsider the evolutionary history of giant animals from an entirely new perspective. Clearly, dinosaurs were not the only giants of prehistoric times. Beneath the murky waters of ancient rivers, once lurked slow-moving yet immensely powerful armored beasts, ready to crush any challenger that dared to confront them. Do you think that beneath the scorching sands of Tatacoa or other barren regions around the world, there are still more colossal creatures waiting to be uncovered? I certainly think so. After all, Earth's natural history has clearly not finished telling its most astonishing and spine-chilling stories. And there are still countless mysteries left, aren't there? Residential settlement of 130 houses, buried for thousands of years, suddenly comes to light. There are places that seem like nothing more than empty land in the middle of Europe's peaceful countryside. But once the first layer of soil is removed, an entire chapter of human history suddenly rises to the surface. Pomelte, a small village located about 53 miles from Berlin, is one such place. If you think this is merely an ancient ritual site similar to Stonehenge, you may want to hold that thought, because what archaeologists have recently discovered here could force us to rethink the entire story. Right next to the Ringheiligtum Pomelte, also known as the Pomelte Sacred Circle, archaeologists uncovered the remains of 130 Bronze Age houses, quietly buried underground for thousands of years. This monument is famous for its structure of 7 concentric circles, surrounded by ditches and earthen embankments, where large wooden posts once stood, forming one of the most impressive ritual complexes of ancient Germany. Because of its distinctive design and ceremonial function, Pomelte has long been referred to as the German Stonehenge. For many years, researchers believed the site was used exclusively for seasonal sacrificial rituals. Earlier excavations revealed chilling evidence that reinforced this view. Archaeologists discovered fragmented remains of women and children, many skeletons showing signs of severe head trauma and broken ribs, seemingly left where they fell. According to scientists, these injuries likely occurred close to the time of death. All of this led researchers to believe that Pomelte was a ritual center where ancient sacrificial and funerary rites were performed. However, these assumptions began to crumble in May 2021. During the most recent excavation, a research team from Martin Luther University, Halle-Wittenberg, Germany, uncovered a vast residential settlement surrounding the ritual site. This was not a scattering of isolated remains, but a full community of 130 houses, including 80 complete house plans, spanning multiple time periods. This discovery raised a major question. If Pomelte was only used for seasonal ceremonies, why did people live permanently right next to it? Some of the houses date back to the same period as the initial construction of the sacred circle, around 2800 BCE, and may belong to the Bell Beaker culture, likely the original builders of the monument. Most of the remaining houses date to around 2200 BCE and are associated with the Unititsit culture, a major early Bronze Age culture in Central Europe. This discovery has completely transformed how we understand Pomelte. It was not just a site for sacred rituals, it may also have been a social and religious center where people lived, worshipped, and maintained a deep connection to their spiritual world. Try to imagine daily life inside those wooden houses. How did these ancient people go about their routines? And with what mindset did they step into the sacred circle? Honestly, it's hard to imagine. Today, archaeologists are still continuing their excavations, hoping to clarify the relationship between the residential settlement and one of the most important ritual monuments of its kind. The next layers of soil may reveal even more secrets about the social life, beliefs, and faith of the Unitis people, individuals who left a profound mark on history yet have largely been forgotten over time. And who knows, perhaps beneath our feet right now, there are countless other sacred circles still waiting to be awakened. So tell me, are you ready to keep exploring with me? If your answer is yes, don't hesitate to leave a comment below. 900-year-old medieval knight sword, found on the seafloor off the coast of Israel. Beneath the turquoise waters off the Carmel coast in northern Israel, a region steeped in thousands of years of history, within the cold, silent darkness of the seafloor, Israeli divers have uncovered an artifact that has sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. A sword measuring approximately 4 feet 3 inches in length, dated to the 12th century, precisely the period when Crusader knights were sweeping across the Holy Land. This remarkable discovery was announced by the Israel Antiquities Authority, IAA, on October 18, 2024. What makes it extraordinary is not only its age, nearly 900 years old, but also its near-perfect state of preservation, an extremely rare condition for objects that have rested underwater for centuries. The sword measures about 4 feet 3 inches long, with a hilt roughly 12 inches in length and a blade about 3 feet 3 inches long. It is made entirely of iron. Over time, and under the influence of marine life, a natural incrustation formed around the weapon, unintentionally creating a kind of protective armor that preserved the sword's original shape almost intact. According to Nir Distelfel, an inspector from the IAA's anti-robbery unit, this is not merely an ancient object, it is a beautiful and rare sword, one that may have once belonged to a Crusader knight. Even imagining that possibility is enough to send chills down the spine of anyone with a passion for history. Picture it, a knight clad in iron armor, gripping this very sword, fighting on blazing battlefields in the name of faith and honor. And now, nearly a millennium later, his weapon has resurfaced from the depths of the sea, like a message sent forward from the distant past. But the sword was not the only find. During the same dive, researchers also discovered ceramic artifacts, stone and metal anchors, and other remains, clear indicators of a once bustling medieval harbor, possibly of strategic importance. According to Kobe Sharvet, director of the IAA's Marine Archaeology Unit, the Carmel Coast offered ideal conditions for both trade and military activity. The area's natural small coves once provided safe shelter for ships during sudden storms, while larger bays supported ancient settlements such as Dor and Atlit. For this reason, the region is considered a vast archaeological treasure trove, where every shift of sand has the potential to reveal traces of history. One particularly fascinating point emphasized by the archaeological team is that the constantly changing conditions of the seafloor make locating and excavating artifacts extremely challenging. Even a minor storm can be enough to either expose long-buried relics or conceal them once again beneath layers of sand. That is why every chance discovery, like this Crusader Knight's sword, is immensely valuable, not only to science, but to the broader story of humanity itself. Experts must work quickly and precisely to collect as much data as possible on site before nature once again pulls these objects back into obscurity. So what are we really looking at here? Not just a sword, not merely an ancient artifact, but a doorway into the past, an invisible thread connecting our modern world to an era that has already become legend. And more importantly, it reminds us that beneath the seemingly calm waves of the ocean, countless untold stories and undiscovered mysteries still lie in wait, waiting for someone curious enough, passionate enough, and brave enough to bring them back to the surface. A bus-sized ancient crocodile fossil discovered in the Sahara Desert. Paleontologists in Tunisia have recently made a discovery that has sent shockwaves through the scientific community: the fossil of a previously unknown species of gigantic ancient crocodile. This was no ordinary crocodile. It was a true monster, measuring over 30 feet in length, weighing nearly 6,600 pounds, with a skull stretching almost 5 feet long. The species has been named Machimosaurus Rex, a name that not only evokes the raw power of ancient crocodilians, but also brings to mind the true apex rulers of prehistoric food chains. And just as researchers describe it, Machimosaurus Rex was indeed a giant and terrifying predator. According to Federico Fonti, lead author of the study and a specialist from the University of Bologna, this crocodile was enormous, almost the size of a bus, and it undoubtedly sat at the top of the food chain during its time, at least in what is now the Sahara Desert. So what makes this discovery so extraordinary? Scientists did not merely uncover isolated bones. They found a large portion of the fossilized remains near the edge of the Sahara in Tunisia. This region is well known for its rich fossil deposits and was once a vast lagoon system connected to the sea. Alongside the crocodile fossils, researchers also discovered the remains of fish and turtles, confirming that this area was once home to a diverse range of marine life. With its immense size and astonishing strength, Machimosaurus Rex was a highly effective aquatic predator. It could silently ambush its prey or feed on animals that drifted lifelessly with the currents. Based on the structure of its skull and teeth, scientists believe this crocodile possessed an extremely powerful bite, capable of crushing bone and flesh, particularly that of turtles, which likely made up an ideal part of its diet. However, the most fascinating aspect of this discovery lies in how it dramatically changes our understanding of life's history on Earth. Before this fossil was discovered, scientists believed that the group of crocodiles to which Machimosaurus Rex belonged had gone extinct around 150 million years ago, at the end of the Jurassic period. Yet this new evidence shows that the species survived an additional 130 million years, enduring even the Great Mass Extinction event that wiped out many forms of life at the end of the Jurassic. This revelation has sparked intense debate within the scientific community. Was the traditional theory of the Great Extinction truly accurate? Researchers now suggest that we may need to rethink our assumptions about life before and after this extinction event, especially in light of discoveries like Machimosaurus Rex. This finding opens new doors for studying and understanding Earth's distant past. Machimosaurus Rex may not be just a colossal ancient creature. It may also serve as a mirror reflecting the many secrets of life's history that remain undiscovered. When we look at this fossil, we are not simply seeing a giant crocodile. We are glimpsing a fragment of the past, one that science will continue to explore for generations to come. 2,000-year-old shoe, trapped in a bog, still remarkably intact. You know, there are some things that seem small and ordinary, so insignificant that no one pays them any attention, until they are pulled from the earth and suddenly bring the past back to life. This time, it wasn't a massive temple or an ancient skeleton, but simply an old leather shoe. And yet, that shoe had remained buried in a bog for 2,000 years, still retaining an almost intact shape, something that even seasoned archaeologists found astonishing. This remarkable discovery comes from Lower Saxony in northern Germany, uncovered by a research team from the Lower Saxony State Office for Cultural Heritage, working together with the excavation company Denkmal 3D Invecta. The shoe is made of leather and resembles a closed-toe sandal, with both sides fastened by simple but sturdy leather straps. Looking at it, one can easily imagine that this was not a ceremonial object, but an everyday item, once worn by an ordinary person walking across muddy, treacherous terrain. What makes the story even more compelling is what was found around the shoe. In the same area, archaeologists also uncovered a wooden road dating back to the late Bronze Age, constructed from multiple planks to allow people and carts to cross the bog safely. Nearby, they discovered a broken wagon axle, suggesting that a serious accident may have occurred at this very spot. By piecing together all these findings, experts have proposed a simple yet convincing scenario. Sometime 2,000 years ago, a wooden cart, likely pulled by livestock, may have suffered an accident while crossing this road. The axle snapped, forcing the travelers to stop and make repairs. While struggling to replace the broken axle, the owner of the shoe may have slipped or stepped off the wooden path, causing one shoe to become stuck in the mud. And there it remained, until today. The reason the shoe survived for so long is not magic, but the unique environment of the bog itself. The high acidity and low oxygen levels create ideal conditions for preserving organic materials such as leather and wood. As a result, the shoe did not fully decompose but was almost frozen in time. In fact, wooden roads like this were once quite common. Clear evidence of this emerged just this past May in the city of Dortmund, where workers installing a heating system unexpectedly discovered a 1,000-year-old medieval wooden road. That road had once allowed carts to cross a swampy area and was preserved thanks to a thick layer of clay above it. However, because such structures were made of wood, most have rotted away over time, and surviving traces are extremely rare. The newly discovered leather shoe may be the oldest shoe ever found in northern Germany. On a global scale, however, the record still belongs to another shoe, one dating back 5,500 years, discovered in a cave in Armenia. That shoe was made of cowhide, stitched with leather thread, and even its laces were still intact. Even more mysterious, it may have belonged to a woman and appears to have been deliberately buried as part of a ritual. Inside that cave, alongside the shoe, archaeologists also found 3 jars containing the skulls of children, as well as other vessels filled with barley, wheat, and apricots. An ancient ritual, a lost belief system, and a single pair of shoes quietly telling the story of people who lived thousands of years before us. From just one small shoe, an entire forgotten world opens up. And who knows, perhaps beneath every step we take today, history is still silently waiting to be told. You see, archaeological discoveries always bring us fascinating stories from the past, but some discoveries truly send chills down our spines. These finds don't just open a door to a lost world, they also raise profound questions about humanity, belief systems, and civilizations we never even knew existed. That's why archaeology is not just a science, it is a journey into the deepest mysteries and hidden fears of humankind. So, which discovery impressed you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give the channel a like and subscribe so you won't miss any other fascinating discoveries. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.